Good day to you. I want to start this topic, and I think it'll help us all to understand a phenomenon that is going on in the world. And the phenomenon is this, that many people, this is about how a child feels treated and where it will lead to. Then I want to take up the theme that I took up in the bilingual one, the lamb kind and the goat kind, where that is going to lead us, and let's see how we proceed. So here is the statement: my heart is not proud, nor my eyes haughty, nor do I involve myself in great matters. Why? Or in things too difficult for me. I have composed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child rests against his mother. My soul is like a weaned child within me. Now, that is a good state when mom and dad, of course, and when mom has treated the child well in the womb, child feels bonded. Now, even when we were in medical faculty, we were taught there's a thing called the maternal deprivation syndrome. That is how a child feels about it, or how his mother is feeling. The child feels so much so that child is so connected to mom that the child will not kick when the mother is sleeping. And if the child is sleeping, when the mother is sleeping, if the mother feels the kick, that means the child is in distress. You must consult an obstetrician for that. That's how connected the child is. So when a child is well treated by mom, and I always say this, that you must speak to the child in the womb as if the child can understand, sing songs, do prayers or whatever, nice things for the fellow to feel bonded and empathically treated. Even if you go to work, you know, every 2-3 hours, just feel the fellow, speak to the fellow, and so on. So if a child does not feel bonded in the womb, that means the child didn't get attention. Then child gets inattention, hyperactivity and impulsivity, which is the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And now doctors may want to put you on methylphenidate and drugs like that, but we recommend empathic learning therapy and empathic motor therapy to overcome this disconnection child feels. So even after birth, if the bonding is not adequate, child will move on to inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity, which is learned acquired behavior. How will the child feel when the child is well treated and well bonded? Child will say, my heart is not proud, nor my eyes haughty. So that leads us to understand, when a child does not feel well treated, does not get what the child should get, he increases demand to get his supply. And then he will overshoot. So he does not know what satisfies, what makes contentment. So he will get discontent and demand more. That's the problem with the child who did not get that bonding, which is very sad. The child moves on to demand mode, and child overshoots because he does not know what he should have got, but he didn't get. He demands more, and in very young days he can even induce vomiting, cry, yell, howl, all that the child will do to get the attention. Now, he will demand more than he should have also when he was not satiated. You understand the word satiation? Satiety. Satiety says serotonin. Get more says dopamine. So that's where the disconnection comes and dyspathic behavior comes. But when, then here is my point. When the child has not been led into doing what he should be doing, even at the age of 3 or 5 years, by supplying him what he needs for that length of time, so the social connections, the intimacy, basic nurture needs, all come from the mom. And then after 3 years, the competence, the confidence to stretch the limit, and next step and next stretch, they come from dad. And if all that is deprived, the child didn't get on to what the skill requirement and the competence he need to have. Then he moves into incompetent mood and thinks he can do things he cannot do. That's how it goes. He moves into things he cannot do. So surely I have composed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child rests against his mother. That's a good behavior. But when the child does not get it, what happens is his heart grows proud, his eyes go haughty, and he involves himself in matters too great, things too difficult. So at each age he tries to be pundit on things he can't handle. So the child who is well weaned, well rested, well satisfied, well bonded, can become a lamb kind from young days. And you set up to a child to be a goat kind, test the fence, demand, be rude, reckless, contest, So my 2 triangles that I have done before, commendation. Now let me use this as a triangle. So commendation, calibration, he finds out what he can do little by little, and celebration is progression. That's a forward direction of movement. Commendation, calibration, he gets to be doing things he can at each age. That's what I mean by calibration. And celebration, moving forward. This is a moving forward triangle. But inside him can work a retrogression triangle. This is progression. Retrogression is where he's in condemnation. He only heard that he can't do, or he didn't get the commendation. Now, commendation involves him getting the things he needs on time. When he doesn't get the things he needs on time, that's a condemnation or deprivation. Maybe deprivation is the right word for the ages of 1 to 5. But he begins to understand commendation more and more. Instead, he gets deprivation and condemnation. And then he's always in a contest. Did I get it? Will I get it? Will I have to fight for it? And then in return he gets, you're shouting too much, keep quiet, don't be asking all the time. He gets all that. And then he's into castigation. And that's a retrogressive backward thing. So in people, the forward thing, a triangle is like that: commendation, calibration, celebration. And the backward thing is condemnation, contest, and castigation. And in some people, the two may try hard in a conflict. Did you understand? Mankind. So that forward one is lamb kind, getting a forward movement the right way. I might say the God way, God designed way. And the other one is a retrogression, the struggle for existence, fight for everything, demand, and you get into demand mode. So here we are looking at this passage which sets us this. So there was the king who came, and he said, come, I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. So this is the role of the lamb kind. So, and in the backdrop of it is, who makes the world hungry? Now we know world has enough food production. Animals perhaps eat more than human beings, so there's enough production. But to keep food securities and stock exchange and all that, they dump enough wheat in the ocean. You know how the injustice goes. So I have taken up this topic earlier. In the face of injustice, if you can be, we'll come to that, if you can be lamb kind, how you overcome, rather than go the goat kind way. So I did this. Maybe I should explain this. Say one shepherd can look after 100 sheep. Then 100 sheep can be looked after a pasture land of half a cricket field, or even quarter of a cricket field is enough if the grass is good and growing and flourishing. And the lambs will have their portion, and side by side, very close to each other, the sheep can feed. You may have seen it in countries which have sheep. We have a few sheep here. But then, if there are 10 goats who have to feed in the pasture, and they always ask for more space, like that, they create so they have to have at least about a 10-foot radius for one goat to eat. They cannot do it the sharing way. Secondly, when there's a water hole, 100 sheep will take their turn and drink from the same water hole. The goats won't do that. They will muddy the water hole and they'll get into conflict. Then at the beginning of the day, what the shepherd does is when they are led out of the fold, where the shepherd is walking, the sheep think that's the door. So there's no fence, but they just move through. Thinking the shepherd is the door or the gate. They just move in a file of 2 by 2. Even the 100 will get to the place where they have to go, as if there's no other move, as if there is an invisible boundary or something. They just go behind the shepherd. But goats are not like that. They will go as they please. And you have heard the usage of the term test the fence. So goats are into test the fence behavior, and they'll put their head and butt each other, butt even the shepherd, butt the fence and break the fence. And see, so when we were younger, we had this thing around the goat's neck so that prevent them getting into other people's properties. That's the goat kind nature. But the sheep will, what the shepherd does is, he takes them to the pasture land, then they just follow him and gather, and 2 circles he will do around them, walking. Sheep are not very bright or keen-sighted. They hear more and they smell. So the shepherd can look after about 100, and then when the shepherd has done the 2 rounds around him, walking around, they think that's their boundary. They never breach it till he gets up. When it is time to go, then again they will move behind him, 2 by 2 or 2 and 3, just in very orderly fashion. So I drew a picture from the lamb kind world and the goat kind world. Then I have already explained a few things, what pushes people to be like goat kind. Now, so here is a scenario. I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. So here is an analysis or a summary of things. So there are people who cause hunger, inequality, and then there are the lamb kinds who attend on inequality. They try to quell hunger. Then I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. So the water source is polluted and people go thirsty, but the lamb kind are trying to help in that. Third problem, I was a stranger, alien, exile, out of my homeland, out of home. You invited me in. So there are those who create homelessness, create conditions that drives people out of their homes and out of their homeland. So the migrant crisis and all that, there's the engineered part of it through war, and there's another engineered part of it, offer greener pastures outside, and there's a brain drain out of a nation. A lot of our young people think the best haven is not in Sri Lanka, out somewhere. So we lose our best, maybe, even doctors, lawyers, whoever can go wherever. So there's a competition, struggle for existence, wherever who can. So the goat kind have created a survival of the fittest, but the lamb kind agree to all can thrive, the complementary mode, while the goat kind gets into competition mode, and the two will be increasingly at war in a post-COVID world, where resources are shrinking, patience is shrinking, ambition is increasing, might is right is how people think problems can be solved. So my suggestion is the lamb kind in professions will be very important. Yes, we might be needed more than those days when resources were wider available and the bubble was kept up. 400 global brands getting ready for world occupation without weapons, other than the weapons of vaccines, pharmaceutical, fashion, confectionaries, toys, amazing weapons, isn't it? Perfumes, and all those consumerist stuff with which they occupied the world and got 99% of world's GDP and turnover being consumed by 1%. by the time COVID arrived on us. Let me repeat it, 1% consuming 99%, which means 99% is restricted to just 1%. Whereas in 1960, before John Maynard Keynes, the Keynesian economics hit in, increase the demand so that you'll have to supply more and more. Everlasting economic growth was what was predicted by John Maynard Keynesian economics. And then in 1960, 40% of the world ate 60%. So it was not completely equal, but it was a 3:1 ratio. Now it is a 99:1 ratio when COVID arrived. So this I'm explaining how people get hungry, who creates hunger, how people get thirsty, who creates thirsty. So I'm calling them the goat kind, and who's attending on the problem, trying to redeem, reconcile and restore, I call them the lamb kind. So we came up to the point, we are told I was a stranger, you gave me a home, you took me in. So whole lot of migrants dislocated from their country, dissatisfied and causing problems in other countries. And with COVID, of course, many of our own Sri Lankan students in Melbourne, for instance, stuck without jobs, shut down. It's quite a sad, messy situation, and they compel their parents to sell up or mortgage a property, and they pay for some course somewhere, and sometimes they keep changing courses. That's a different topic. So I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. My last official post was, meaning state post, was as head of Department of Pharmacology. That's why I spoke a lot about chloroquine and so on, hydroxychloroquine and so on. Now I am Director, Colombo Empathic Learning Center, which we founded. Empathic motor therapy, it was my innovation that I presented to the SLMA last year, which is a method of attending on ADHD plus digitized behavior. That's a little of my professional background, and these little talks I have called them happy hour talks. Altogether I have done 71 talks, and this is my 72nd. Some are in English and Sinhala, some are in English and Tamil. Quite a large number are in English. Few are in Sinhala only also. My early talks were on COVID. Next ones were science and reason. And in recent times I have been doing more of these happy hour talks, which relates to family and emotional, social development of not only children but of adults also. So hunger, thirst and alienation from home. Next one is I was naked, you clothed me. So you know that nakedness has been used as an industry, thriving industry, pornography, addictive industry, demeaning, dehumanizing industry, and I want to add to that the gay industry, LGBTQ industry, all have become methods of earning. For instance, if a girl thinks or is made to think she's not girl, you give testosterone and prevent puberty. That is terrible, isn't it? That's child abuse. So Dr. Paul McHughes, John Hopkins, much celebrated psychiatrist, has done a long research, and he has stated without any variation that gay is choice and not genetics. If you need that document, I can send it to you. My WhatsApp reachable is +94 77 49 59 214. If you send me a WhatsApp for that, I can send any of my earlier clips. Also, you can go on my YouTube channel, Dr. Lalith Mendis, or my Facebook timeline. So the fourth one is nakedness, which is a big industry. So lamb kind are those who heal that vulnerability. Goat kind are those who do that. Then we have I was sick and you visited me. So you know, sickness, wellness, illness, wholeness is a massive industry. You know that. So people are swallowing a whole lot of minerals and they are excreting that in the urine, and sickness is created. And you know the vaccine struggle. Pfizer says we have it, AstraZeneca says we have it, Gavi and Bill Gates says our Moderna is the vaccine, and China is saying we have already got the best vaccine. Now it is, one has to wait and see who will who will approve for global consumption. So that's vaccine has become a hen that is laying the golden egg for profit when you get a global vaccine going. So that's just some scientific aside. So I was sick, so the sickness is created so that drugs may be repurposed and so on. And drugs like hydroxychloroquine get criminalized because branded drugs will earn the money. And you buy up the researchers, the professors, then of course big pharma will make a big profit. Yes. I was in prison, you're sick, and last one, I was in prison, you came to me. So what I mean by prison is a large amount of the world's population is constrained. The good gift they have cannot be completed, and they are in a very restricted space. Now for this, when such a battle is on, what will win? What will the lamb kind have as winning qualities? Here I suggested, being poor and needy in your understanding of yourself. I need to learn more, and such people create space for themselves to do good because they are poor and needy, meaning I don't have everything. You remember that earlier one, my eyes are not lofty, my statements are not proud, I am learning. I am a learner of life, I am a learner of sciences. Of course, science is meant to be that, willing to learn at any time, ditch your old theory and see what fits the evidence. But increasingly science has become a systemic, statistically manipulated. What the system says goes as science. So they criminalize hydroxychloroquine, contrary to the pharmacological evidence, and they brought in dexamethasone. Everybody knows dexamethasone works in conditions of immune upheaval, but it's a non-specific drug with a lot of side effects, and it cannot prevent the reaction, and only you can treat with it the people who are almost dying. Whereas hydroxychloroquine given early prevents the immune storm and everything else. So I have done this extensively in my COVID science talk. Just one example, when you have an attitude of poor and needy, meaning I need to learn, I need to hear other opinion. Second quality is those who are meek, they will rule a larger part of the earth. Meaning, what does that mean? Meek are those who make space for others. So lamb kind are meek, they make space for others. In your profession, in your field of expertise, the next generation, the juniors, you make space for them happily. Goat kind, you elbow them out and keep your advantaged position. At present, a fracas is developing between the CDC, Dr. Fauci, and Gavi, because Dr. Fauci has agreed to AstraZeneca trialing the Oxford vaccine in US before Moderna and Gavi came out with the Bill Gates vaccine. So you can see criticism by Bill Gates about Dr. Fauci these days, about the CDC. So that's how intense the vaccine battle is, which is not scientific at all. It's just a matter of profit and domination. So 400 global brands produce their stuff in China's massive cities, which have become industrial zones, polluted, no human rights, no labor laws. So the global brands prefer to produce in China rather than in their own countries. So that's the problem there. And these global brands would want to own resources of every country. That's a global invasion, not with thermonuclear missiles, but with different trade strategies. This may sound political, but I'm not doing partisan politics. I'm just getting you to understand where it's going. So that's the meek one. The third one is those who sorrow, mourn for what others do, rather than protest, rage. You create a better atmosphere to get yourself right and give people another chance. Give people another chance. Did you understand? Fourthly, those who make peace as against people who are always on the conflict edge and confrontation. So especially dad, I have to tell this again, in mistake management of making peace for your young fellow, when he does wrong, they experiment with error, they will try thrill and peril because of the digitized overdrive. If you need to understand more, you need to read a clip on digital science that I have done many clips. If you want them, please send me that WhatsApp number, +9477 49 59 214. So with that digitized drive, they will experiment, go into thrill, they will test you, contest you, and then they will get into error. That's your time of investment. When your son or daughter gets into error, please keep that time for them. I always say 7 p.m. is the happy hour, the harvest hour. When dad comes home, he keeps the next 2 hours for family, because that's your long-term career, not the corporate, not the profession. Home is your everlasting career, if I may use that term. So in mistake management, you take that half an hour, sit down, get it out of the little fellow, and you package it so that you absorb the error. So that falling asleep time, 9 o'clock, melatonin has worked 3 hours from 6 p.m., then GABA, aminobutyric acid begins to work, and that brings that loved, naughty feeling. You feel like a weaned child again. That's the time they'll come out and say, Dad, I did this wrong. How can I get it right? Be available for them at that time. So this is the principle of the Good Shepherd on the cross. He absorbed the errors of everybody else. Those were the nails, those were the thorns that people give each other. And this generation very easily get into thorns. So zillennials are the 45-year-olds now who can still work with the ancient fathers or the pioneers, and with the next. So the Facebook generation is now really between 35 to 40. So the 30s I call tillennials, and the 20s I call trillennials. Thrill. They're experimenting with thrill, and they relapse into bottom-up regulation, whatever that goes. Bottom-up regulation, whatever that goes. Bottom-up regulation, so whatever that goes is the thing they experiment with. Whereas I have told you again and again, they must be in the executive, empathic mode and to work things forward. So that's about those who make peace and those who break peace. I think I have spoken at length enough. Consider this. Where will the where is the world going with the goat kind? Will you pay the cost as lamb kind, especially at home, absorbing the error of your child, taking it over to yourself, which is the principle of the cross and the Good Shepherd? You absorb it and absolve the young fellow. Do it soon. Let him not carry the guilt too long. Then he will transfer that and begin to play with life and so on. So these 4 principles, I think, will help you to see yourselves as the lamb kind, winning the battle and overcoming the competition and struggle for existence. Thank you for listening. We'll meet again at another time.